In this video, we will take a look at something called background processes. We'll talk about how to run things in the background, why you would want to run things in the background, and how to manage them once they are in the background. Now I have a script here. You can find a copy in your working files directory. It's just called longscript.sh. All it does is it takes 20 seconds to run. Now what you can see here, while it's running, I don't have access to my prompt. I can hit return, but nothing really happens because this process has tied up my shell, if you will. It's what's running. It's called running in the foreground. So you can see my script finishes, it says all done, and all those returns that I had typed actually queued up and ran once the script was done. I can prove that is what's happening. I'll run a pwd command and I'll run a date command. You can see nothing is happening. It's running my script. It's out there for 20 seconds. Now 20 seconds isn't a terribly long time, but it's long enough for us to illustrate with. There's my pwd and my date command actually being executed. That input that I had typed was sitting there waiting for the shell when it came back to my prompt. Instead of this little simple script that takes 20 seconds, imagine you had a process that took hours to run. You don't necessarily want to tie up your shell for that entire time. There's a few ways you could deal with this. One, you could just open another terminal window, let that terminal window that you started that process in be dedicated to that process. That's certainly a valid way to do it. You could just wait. If you don't need to run anything else, you could just walk away from the computer, go do something else. That would work too. Or you can do what we'll talk about in this video. You can run things in the background. Now, the way we run something in the background is we put an ampersand at the end of the line. And that ampersand means give me back my terminal immediately. So you can see I can do the pwd. I can do date. I can do all the things, everything interactive that I plan to do with my terminal. I can do while I'm waiting for that process to end. That process is running in the background. You can see why it's called in the background. It's just finished. It put my output out. Now it just puts it wherever and whenever I am. It could be in the middle of something else. Say I was looking at a file. It didn't actually put it in that file, but it puts it in my screen. And then it gives me a message saying, you see up above in square brackets and a 21139, that is basically telling me, hey, I've started this process. It's the first one you're doing like this. And now it's telling me, hey, that first process you were doing is now done. It was called longscript.sh. That's great if all I want to do is forget about it, but what if I want to do something about it while I'm running the process? So let's do longscript again. I did a Control-C to stop that process. Control-C will essentially interrupt the current process that's going on. Because what I wanted was to run this in the background. And now I can type jobs, and the shell will show me all the jobs that I'm running. I have a grand total of 1 job. And I can do things with that information. So for instance, let's start one more. I actually didn't want to be running that. I wanted to kill it. I don't have to give the process ID number like we normally do with the kill command. I can give a %1. %1 means kill job 1, whatever I see with the jobs. If I had 5 of them going, they'd be numbered 1 through 5. And I could kill number 3, for instance, that sort of thing. And now you see before my process said, when it exited, it said it was done. This time it says it was terminated. It's even telling me, hey, this process did not actually finish. It was terminated before it was finished. One final thing that sometimes happens, sometimes you have something running in the background and you actually want to bring it to the foreground. A good example is if a program needs input from the terminal, that cannot happen when it's in the background. Or maybe you finished other things you were doing and you want to bring that process back to the foreground. So let's show how to do that. Again, we will run our script and run it in the background. We'll do our jobs. We know it's job 1. I can say FG %1, and my job comes back to the foreground, and now I'm just like we were the first time we looked at it. I have the process running in the foreground. I do not have a prompt. The system is waiting for this thing to finish, and it has finished. So that was a real quick look, but it's a pretty simple concept, and that's how to run processes in the background.